Are there any senators in the chamber who wish to vote or change a vote? If not, on this vote, the ayes are 50, the nays are 48. The nomination of Brett M. Kavanaugh of Maryland to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States is confirmed.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
I ask consent the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table, and the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Without objection.
I suggest the absence of quorum.
Do you understand that?
Sergeant at Arms will restore order in the gallery. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.
So there you see 50-48. Brett Kavanaugh has been confirmed to be an Associate Justice on the United States Supreme Court after just about the most, actually, it was the most bruising battle ever to get to that point. But he made it with only one vote to spare, effectively. The reason it's 50-48 is because one senator, the lone Republican senator who said she was going to vote no, didn't formally make that vote out of respect for another Republican who wanted to vote yes, but is walking his daughter down the aisle there. So there was some Republican comedy, if you will, there. Incredibly historic moment. And I want to again get back to Phil Mattingly, who was in the gallery as this vote started to take place. Phil, go ahead with what you were reporting.
Yeah, I was just talking about the numbers of protesters. And Dana, this happens often in contentious votes. I think you make a really good point. I've covered a lot of confirmation battles. I've covered a lot of legislative battles. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything this heated, this bare-knuckled, an issue or a confirmation or an individual that by the end of it, nobody really felt like they won. Everybody felt like things were in a bad place. Now, there's no question about it in terms of victories and the who won and the who lost. For Republicans, for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, for the president, this is a monumental moment. This tilts the bent of the Supreme Court for generations to come, and that is enormous. It's part of Mitch McConnell's plan with White House counsel Don McGahn to completely reshape the federal judiciary, something they've done in spades over the course of the last year and a half or so. But I think more broadly, when you look beyond this, I was struck not just by the protesters, which again we see quite often, but by the final two speeches that we heard before the vote, by Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Chuck Schumer going down a litany of reasons why he didn't believe Brett Kavanaugh was suited for the court, both on record and because of the allegations, and then making a point-by-point request to people watching. If you don't like this aspect of what happened, if you don't like that aspect of what happened, vote. He said it repeatedly over and over again, basically calling on people to vote if they had a problem with this. And then Mitch McConnell immediately followed. And while he once again, as he's done weeks on end, went through why he believed Brett Kavanaugh was just a good justice for the court, not just a good justice for the court, but perhaps one of the best ever nominated, he made the point that voting yes or getting through this process could, in his words, lead to a brighter day later. And he talked about what's happened over the course of the last 3 weeks as one of the darker periods of the Senate. Multiple times over the last couple of weeks, Dana, he's referred to the McCarthy era and tried to make parallels to that. You take those two speeches and you see how diametrically opposed they are on the nominee, on the issues, on the conversation that's happening right now, and it just underscores the fact that the Senate right now is not in a great place. And while there is certainly a new justice, there is certainly a confirmation that has occurred, there are a lot of things that need to happen going forward to try and bring people back together after what just happened.
Absolutely, Phil. Thank you so much for that reporting, all of your reporting, keeping everybody honest and ahead of the game on everything going on up there with our whole Capitol Hill team. And, you know, so much, we're back with our panel now, so many times we cover stories in Washington that people don't know about, people don't care about. Look at those pictures. That is right outside the Supreme Court. We saw the pictures, and we'll see as we discuss the shot get wider. You see how many people are there, pro and con. Right. The con are the loudest, probably right now, which is the way it works. But there are passions, intense passions about this. There were before the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh because of the import, because of what his presence on the court will mean for so many issues that affect every single American across the board in their everyday lives.
And this has moved now beyond the Senate chamber and beyond what's going outside the Supreme Court and the Capitol to the country as the country wrestles with this in terms of the midterm elections coming up. And I will tell you that what I heard from Chuck Schumer was vote, vote, vote. I just got an email in my inbox from Kamala Harris, elect more Democratic women. It's been a tough day. Our mailboxes are filling up with this now.
If you start to see our phones smoke, that's why.
That's what it is. Just totally. And there's no pretense about it. This is going to motivate both sides, already has. And the president, I am sure tonight, we will hear this from the president, who will say what they want to do is impeach this justice and impeach me. And he will use this as a rallying cry going forward. Don't let them do it. And the Democrats will say, you know, this court is going to change for generations. It's not a matter of when, of whether, but how fast it's going to happen. And you can try and stop it.
And I want you both, I want you to talk about what's next.
Well,
he's been confirmed. How quickly will he actually be sworn in?
Hey, there's precedent for Sam Alito was confirmed on a January 31st, 2006. That evening, he was sworn in. That's probably going to happen today. The Supreme Court has been a little bit cagey about wanting to put anything out a little prematurely.
Because the court is in session.
Well, they come in. It's Saturday, but they're
no. What I mean is it's after the 1st of October.
Yeah.
Yes, and in fact, they're off for Columbus Day. But on Tuesday, when you go into the Supreme Court, you will see him sitting up on the bench on your far right, where that empty seat had been all last week when the justices met without their 9th member. And he will be moving into his chambers, and that is it for life.
But Dana, what's so interesting is, I mean, right now this court has taken this hard right turn. When he had his first nominee, he replaced Justice Scalia with somebody who was like-minded, younger but like-minded. This is the seat of Justice Anthony Kennedy. That means LGBT rights, abortion, affirmative action, Second Amendment. A source told me yesterday that Kavanaugh was optimistic. He had already started reading the briefs because he's going to be on the bench Tuesday. We don't have any blockbuster cases right now, but percolating below are some big issues. DACA, ACA, sanctuary cities, those are going to make their way up to this court, which is now solidly conservative.
And Julie, this has been a fight for over a generation in conservative circles to do exactly what we're seeing now. Of course, you know, starting with the lower federal courts, but this is the cherry on top, to get not just the Supreme Court seat, but the swing seat. Make it no longer swing. There isn't a swing seat anymore.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, it's a little bit ironic given how many reservations some Republicans had initially about President Trump when he was candidate Trump, that he is the president who has finally accomplished this. I mean, it has been a generational fight. There's been this, very aggressive and meticulously planned campaign led by the Federalist Society. Don McGahn is now the White House counsel. He is very closely aligned and looped in with all of those people. Brett Kavanaugh is part of that circle of people as well. They have, planned this out very carefully. And it's not just the Supreme Court either. As Phil was alluding to earlier, this is Mitch McConnell's, this has been his agenda for a long time, to really try to get as many conservative judges on the courts below the Supreme Court as possible to sort of feed that pipeline. It's not something that Democrats have done. It's not something that Democratic voters have been as focused on, frankly, as the Republican-based voters.
But
I think this is, I think that was what I was going to say.
Yes.
I think that may change. I mean, there was a lot of talk during this confirmation battle about that it wasn't fair. Republicans made the point privately and publicly to try to make Brett Kavanaugh answer for all of the sins that of all of the assailants of these women who are coming forward and saying they had these complaints, these things happened to them, and that may have been true. It was a confirmation fight over him and whether he was appropriate for this seat. But you better believe that in this debate that's going to go on in the next few weeks running up to the midterm elections, it is going to be a proxy fight, and this is going to become a real issue, I think, animating Democrats as well as Republicans.